Moving into a hearing for the Spokane Plan Commission on Wednesday, May 12th, 2021. Welcome to anyone who's now joined us. We have two hearings today that the commission is going to hear. The first one is on the 6-year program and the second one's on the downtown plan. So we have 20 minutes allocated for the first hearing. We will take public testimony, but before we start, let's take roll call just for the record, please.
All right, Michael Baker.
Here.
Jesse Bank. Looks like he may not be here right at the moment.
Yeah, and Jackie, just to state, we're welcoming Jesse to participate. We haven't technically onboarded him yet, so we'll probably ask that he doesn't deliberate and vote today, but absolutely welcome to join the meeting.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, Todd Byrather.
Here.
Greg Francis.
Here.
Sylvia St. Clair, and I believe she's not here today. Thomas Anderson.
Here.
Carol Shook.
Here.
Clifford Winger.
Here.
Joanne Wright.
Here.
Okay, so we have a quorum. And then also Mary Winkus.
Here.
Councilmember Kinnear.
Here.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. Okay, then moving into our 6-year program, we will hand it over to Mr. Kevin Capato.
Yes, thank you, commissioners. I'm Kevin Picanto with the Integrated Capital Management Department here with the City of Spokane, presenting this afternoon on our 6-year street comprehensive program for 2022 to 2027. First, just a brief agenda. I'll touch on the public hearing purpose today. In terms of background information included in your package was the reconciliation sheet as well as the comp plan goal consistency review. Those documents were included last month at our workshop with the Plan Commission. No changes to those documents, but they were included in today's packet as well. And just general information that the draft of the overall program is available online on our capital programs page. I'll focus on discussing the projects today as it relates to the hearing and the consistency review, do a brief overview of each project, and discuss the comp plan goals and consistency review. So, and then finally, with a requested action for recommendation of the council of consistency of the 6-year streets program with the comp plan. First, in terms of the hearing purpose, really the focus is to review the new projects going into the 6-year street program for the 2022 to 2027 cycle. Existing projects already in the 6-year street program that are being carried forward or continuing in the 22 to 27 program have already been vetted through this same process through past annual cycles of review by the Plan Commission. And on the council side, those previous annual plan updates have been adopted. So those projects carrying forward have already been addressed from an approval process. In this reference here just speaks to the SMC section relating to the Plan Commission's role in reviewing projects in terms of their consistency with the city's comprehensive plan. First, by way of background, I know, I've presented this many times. I know we have some new members and maybe some members of the public joining us as well. So I'll touch on this again today. Our 6-year streets program is really our tool or our mechanism to implement the goals of the comp plan, and specifically Chapter 4 transportation, the goals included in that transportation chapter of the comp plan. Once projects are contained in an adopted 6-year program, that allows us to start identifying funding. Once funding's fully identified for individual projects, those projects can move forward in terms of design and implementation and construction. Now, we're required by state law to update our streets program annually. Something that's unique about the transportation or street side of things compared to other elements of our capital plans is that our street program has to be updated by July 1st of each year. So with that, with those annual updates, we're looking at the new projects coming in, updates related to completed projects and no longer need to be in the plan, and making content updates on those projects that are in the program. So jumping into the new projects, I'll go into a little more detail here in just a second on each of these projects. There's 5 projects we have listed here that are the truly new projects going into the program. The first 3 are all council requested projects from last spring, from those for those of you who were on the Plan Commission last year at this time. There was a resolution that came forward from City Council kind of later in our update cycle, requesting several projects be added to our 6-year program. So we're addressing the inclusion or addition of those projects here now this year. You may recall that resolution included more than these 3 projects that I have noted here. The other projects from that council resolution that aren't included were all maintenance related projects, and those maintenance projects through our arterial street maintenance program is really a separate process and document, and so therefore not included in this particular process. The 4th bullet here is a Division Street pedestrian hybrid beacon. That's a project we were awarded a grant for end of 2020, and I'll touch on that. And then the last one was a little bit newer project. I did highlight it at the workshop last month, but this was a special project brought forward as a request from the U District PDA, and I'll elaborate on that project here in a second. So in terms of new projects, we've spoken in the past about our reconstruction matrix. That's kind of the scoring and ranking process that really governs the real large scale full rebuild type projects. For this year, we aren't proposing to add any new projects from that list. The Strong Road project, we are adding it. It is on that rebuild list, but that's being added as a result, again, of that council request. But otherwise, there aren't any other full rebuilds being added. This is just a quick map overview of where these 5 new projects are located. Strong Road to the north, the 3 Division Street locations, the Boone protected bike lanes, the short Sherman Street, or I'm sorry, Riverside Avenue project in the South U District, and then 44th Avenue to the south. I won't read through this. This is included in your packet. This is a reconciliation sheet. It provides a little bit more detail in terms of the project description. I'll get into that specifically on each of these projects now. So going down that same order in terms of how those new projects were listed previously. First project is 44th Avenue. This is a unique project in that it was also included in the next priority up on our unpaved street program. What's unique about this, though, is a planned arterial route, and it'll be jointly funded by the unpaved street program funds as well as traffic impact fee dollars. We also are going to add to that scope and include some frontage improvements to include sidewalk, as well as intend to stripe it as striped for bike lanes. And this is identified as a bike route as well. So with all those additional improvements, it really doesn't fit in that unpaid program anymore. So that's why we're pulling it out as its separate standalone project. Next project is Strong Road. Strong Road today is mostly a old county road, if you will, from 5 Mile to Austin. This project would entail complete reconstruction of Strong Road, bringing it up to current standards with full complete street improvements through this limits of work. Next project is the Boone Avenue protected bike lanes. So this project will look at adding protected bike lanes along the route highlighted here on the map. The first step in this process is a study. There's lots of things to address and consider before implementation. It'll likely involve a lane reduction through this highlighted area. We need to have some public outreach with affected businesses and properties along the way. Of course, with its proximity to the Spokane Arena, the under construction indoor sports facility, and now most recently with school district's plans to build a stadium. We need to address special event traffic, and as well as looking at specific locations along the route in terms of intersection treatments and just how this project could be implemented, which then allows us to really put a more detailed scope together and budget and progress with the project. Fourth project is Division Street pedestrian hybrid beacons. Got a little bit different graphics here. These are concept plans from the grant application that we were ultimately awarded for. So 3 different locations. First one here on the left, Division Street at Longfellow. You'll see some green green striping here. Longfellow is designated as a planned greenway. So as part of this pedestrian hybrid beacon project, we'll be factoring in or considering that planned greenway routing through here, and look to include some additional improvements beyond just the pedestrian hybrid beacon. I'll note, just for everyone's benefit, the term pedestrian hybrid beacon, that's kind of more the official term. Many folks know these as Hawk signals, and that's effectively what they are. Hawk's a little bit more of a trade name, so we use the term pedestrian hybrid beacons. The second location is here at Division Street at Everett, Franklin Park. And with each of these projects, in addition to the hybrid beacons themselves, there'll be pedestrian crossing improvements, ADA ramp upgrades, adjacent sidewalk replacement where needed, a modification of existing median, other ancillary work, in addition to the hybrid beacon. And then the third location is up to the north of Francis at Rhodes and Wheel. Same type of improvements here, hybrid beacon and pedestrian crossing improvements. And last truly new project here is Riverside Avenue. This is that special request.
Kevin, I have a question. On the
Sure.
division beacons, does that have to be coordinated with WashDOT because that's a highway?
Yes, there's some interaction certainly with them on it. It's a shared jurisdiction or responsibility. As an example, we maintain the traffic signals, for instance. They maintain the pavement. So there's certainly collaboration there and involvement from their end.
Okay, thanks.
Again, on Riverside Avenue, this is a short project from Grant to Sherman in the South U District area. What this project, again, this is requested by the U District PDA. This project will really complete the grid network within this area. This aerial photo is a little bit old near the Catalyst building. This section of Riverside to the east from Sherman to Sheridan is in place now, of course, if you've been out there. Sherman Plaza was recently constructed. Several phases of Sprague Avenue have been constructed. The current and final phase through here is under construction as we speak, from roughly Sherman over to Division. So this completion will really finish out the grid network through here. There's a large multifamily development that's under construction as we speak at this west end of the street. And of course, the presence of the U District Bridge itself there. So again, this was a project requested by the PDA. In those situations, they have to come forward with essentially a financing plan and how to fund the project, and they've done that. And there's MOUs in place between us and the PDA to implement the project. And so we'll be moving forward with this in the near term to get this constructed. And then finally, this isn't truly a new project, but I've highlighted in the past. I'll just mention it again because it might show up as being new, and in fact, it's really what we're calling what we've listed on the reconciliation sheet as an honorable mention project. And the reason it isn't truly new is that it's already been included in the past under our TBD sidewalk program. This project was awarded a grant. It was a partial award a couple years ago. We were able to secure the remaining amount of the grant requests. So we're able to move forward with the project now, and it's really fully funded. Because of those outside or federal dollars, it deserves to be sort of a standalone project, if you will. We did a similar thing last year with the North River Drive sidewalk, which will be under construction this season. So this project isn't truly new, but it'll be pulled out to kind of a separate section and established as its own standalone project. And the project includes infill sidewalk for this highlighted areas of Alberta, Cochrane, and Driscoll, ADA ramp improvements and improvements to access to Finch Elementary. So that's really it for the five, really the 5 new projects in the honorable mention project. In terms of comp plan consistency, this document was shared and provided to you at the workshop last month and in your packet as well. You don't want to go project by project and policy by policy necessarily, but just in general, I'll kind of summarize what we do when we're looking at this in terms of that comp plan consistency. And I'll just kind of highlight some of those. Goal 1 is a transportation network for all users. We feel that, all these projects kind of check the box in regards to that. Same for policy 5, active transportation. Policy 20, bicycle and ped coordination. So it's just an example where we're going through and evaluating each project in terms of its alignment with each of those comp plan goals. Now, as you see, none of the projects check the box, every one of the boxes, and they aren't expected to or don't have to. That's typical. I doubt we ever really have a project that would literally address every one of the comp plan goals, because you have things, for instance, like focus on freight or parking related type issues that aren't necessarily the focus or the reason for these particular projects. So let me know if there's any questions or comments on that. Okay, so just big picture in terms of our overall process, just to give you a feel for where we stand. I haven't listed all of our introductory meetings that we had, but we had several kickoffs with both the Planning Commission, PCTS, the City Council early in the year. The most recent, steps in terms of the Planning Commission, PCTS, were April 6th, and PCTS made a recommendation of consistency. We had our Planning Commission workshop last month. We sit here today on May 12th for the hearing and resolution. Next steps beyond this are a briefing to the City Council the end of May, leading to 2 touches with the City Council, including the final public hearing on June 21st and adoption of the program at that time. And then from there, we were required to then publish the document by early July, and then pass that on and share that with some of our partner agencies at the state, SR and SRTC. So that's really it for my presentation. I'll kind of turn it back over to Todd and Lewis. I don't know if there's any requests to comment from the public.
Yeah, so actually first to start out, thank you, Kevin. Let's start with any questions for Kevin from the commissioners, and then we'll go into the public hearing. Okay, we have all seen it before, so thank you very much, Kevin.
Well, I'm sorry. I would like to ask a quick question.
Go ahead, Tom.
It just has to do with the Boone Street study, and I'm wondering how much of an impact. I know you mentioned there is going to be some sort of an impact now because of the passing of the stadium, but is it, could you just expand on that, or is it worth expanding on?
Well, I'll just say that even without that stadium proposal, it really doesn't change our plan or our process. We were already planning on doing a more detailed study. That stadium kind of adds to that issue of special event traffic, in terms of addressing that. That would definitely be, but that would be required even if, that new stadium wasn't being planned because of the arena and special events that occur in that area, and multiple, large regional facilities we have there that have that special event traffic. So that's definitely an item we'll have to address as part of the study and as part of that outreach, and understand how that special event traffic can or will work in the context of having physical protected bike lanes out there.
Along with will there be any collaboration with SPS because of that as well?
Yeah, certainly. We'll be reaching out to really all of the interested and impacted parties, from the public facility district to, in this case, Spokane Public Schools. Our own police department is obviously actively involved in the special event traffic control that occurs with special events. So yeah, there'll be a really large group of folks that we'll have to bring to the table to have that discussion.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that.
Okay. Hearing no other questions, thank you. We will now go into public testimony. We have two hearings today. This is only on the 6-year plan, but I'm going to read the hearing procedures for both. It's kind of abbreviated list for an online format. The president will impose time limits for public comments to 3 minutes. All persons and our commission members shall wait to be recognized by the president before speaking. Persons testifying are asked to avoid repetition and limit comments to specific project and code compliance. That probably won't apply here, but it will apply to the downtown plan where we have a lot of written testimony. So if you gave written testimony, please try to limit repetition to that. That is part of public record. And with that, we will, after we open the testimony, we will then close testimony and then go into a potential action, motion, and deliberation by the commission. By the way, Jesse Banks, I just wanted to clarify, you're welcome to ask questions during this period. Also, it's simply on the actual action at the end of the day where we have to wait till you're formally onboarded. In case you had any burning questions here or for the downtown plan.
No, absolutely. I really appreciate it. And I'm just on listening mode right now.
All right. Thank you. Okay. With that, let's open the public testimony. Jackie, I didn't see names on this one. I think I only saw downtown plan. Is that correct?
Right. Nobody signed up for this one.
Okay. Thank you. If anyone in the public would like to testify, just please speak up and we'll recognize you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Carol Ellis, and I signed up to testify with the downtown plan update. However, a question to Kevin. Is it too late to consider extending the Boone bicycle path west of Howard to Monroe? Because it would be forward thinking to get that bicycle plan closer to a major area of housing if we really want to have more pedestrian access to our new North Bank developments.
Sure. I guess I'd answer that by, I guess I'll be, your comment will become part of the record here. And again, I'll reiterate, we have the city council hearing that will come up in June as well. So I recommend you make that comment through that process as well. And, from there we can, consider that comment and request.
Okay, thank you, Carol. The clarification on that, Kevin, public testimony there's not a hearing at the PIES committee, is there?
Not at the PIES, but for this actual city council vote on the overall program, there'll be a public hearing through that process as well.
Okay, thank you. And even after we close testimony here, of course, yes, testimony to city council is still welcome. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Carol. Anyone else from the public? Okay, then with that, we'll close the public testimony and move into a potential motion.
I move to recommend to City Council to adopt the 2022 to 2027 6-year comprehensive street program.
I second it.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Then Michael, deliberation. Kevin, will you mind stop sharing, please? And
sure.
Thank you. Only for the purpose of seeing the full. Thank you. Okay, hearing none. I believe we can move straight into roll call then, please.
All right. Michael Baker.
Aye.
Rod Byrather.
Aye.
Greg Francis.
Aye.
Thomas Sanderson.
Aye.
Carol Shook.
Aye.
Clifford Winger.
Aye.
Joanne Wright.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Kevin. Very thorough process. Good luck on next steps.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, with that, then we'll move into our second hearing item, which is the downtown plan. We have many visitors here. What we'll do is we're first gonna, just as a summary, we're gonna move into a presentation by Mr. Nathan Gwynn from our planning staff, and then we will open up to public testimony after questions from the commission. So with that, Nathan, please.
All right, thank you. And good afternoon, Plan Commission President and Plan Commission members. I am Nathan Gwynn with the city's Planning Services Department, and DSP, or Downtown Spokane Partnership, is co-sponsor with the city. So we have Andrew Rolls with us, and we've been coordinating with the planning consultant team framework, and we should have Jeff on the call as well. And I'm here to give an overview of the Spokane Downtown Plan and the amendment process, and highlight some of the important work that the city's been doing, and highlight some important issues also that the city is using in this and related work, and the city's approach. And then the draft document and related information, I'll just point out, is posted online at the project webpage, which is given at the bottom of the screen. The planning team has a short presentation before the Plan Commission opens the public hearing, and the consultant, Jeff Arango from Framework, will present the goals and vision and some key features of the content, and the Downtown Spokane Partnership will give a short presentation as co-sponsor, and then I'll wrap up with the staff recommendation. And the sub-area plan area is shown here. It's centered on the core of downtown, but also contains area on both sides of the river. This is the regional center recognized in the city's comprehensive plan, which states that downtown should be sustained as a thriving economic, cultural, and social center of the region, developed as a unique collection of businesses, neighborhoods, and open spaces with a vision and a plan to which all stakeholders contribute. And the location of recent planning efforts in the North Bank and South University District are shown here. Those processes inform this process. The new downtown plan, because they're within downtown, and the new boundary extends east a little to cover the entire South University District plan sub-area adopted by the city last year. Comprehensive plan provides for a growing and thriving downtown. This sub-area specific plan, the downtown Spokane Downtown Plan, exists to give additional detail over a long time frame. And this plan replaces the existing downtown plan that was adopted in 2008 and builds on accomplishments since then. The existing plan helped the community prepare for Riverfront Park redevelopment, the University District Gateway Bridge, and Central City Line, as well as private investments. And it anticipated, like the plan it replaced in 2008, a new update to the planning framework might be needed after 10 years. So as part of the comprehensive plan, it's adopted by amendment, which is allowed separately from the annual amendment process by the Revised Code of Washington as an initial sub-area plan, in this case replacing the former plan with a new plan and area, as long as cumulative impacts of the proposed changes are considered and reviews completed under the State Environmental Policy Act, or SEPA. To review those steps, the City Council recognized the amendment as part of the Plan Commission's work program. An agency and city department review was conducted, in this case including a technical work group. Public comment and feedback was solicited through a public engagement plan, open house, and other efforts in addition to the SEPA review. And following the Plan Commission hearing today and SEPA determination, the City Council will hold a public hearing with the mayor's decision and an effective date 30 days following. The city did not receive comments requiring technical analyses for the proposal. It issued a determination of non-significance on April 28th, 2021. No comments have been received on the SEPA application or SEPA determination. And so with that, just kind of wrap up the recommendation procedures. Plan Commission recommendation, as stated in the staff report, is based on a number of items that are outlined in the Spokane Municipal Code, including decision criteria and public input received. And the Plan Commission can recommend approval with conditions, or denial, and details for the basis of these recommendations are also given in the information sheet emailed to Plan Commissioners today. So that sums up the process and recommendation procedures. Now I'll turn to look more closely at the public participation and issues identified through that.
Hey, Nathan.
Yes.
Before you move on, sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
And just to clarify some of the things we've talked in the past, and I got to ask a question again today. So this is part of the comp plan because it was part of an ordinance, right? Which as opposed to other sub-area plans, which are by resolution.
Correct.
Signifies that it went through a more thorough thresholds, including SEPA and so forth. And then I got to ask a question today. We're moving forward with this after we've adopted, the city's adopted by resolution, the South University District, but we haven't completed North Bank by resolution.
Right.
Although it is informed by that is the answer, correct?
We have taken content from that process and incorporated it where we could in this document. And I would say that both for South University District and for the North Bank, there were certain aspects that were applicable more broadly to downtown than just in those sub areas. So there was always kind of an intent to do that. That's kind of part of the cumulative impacts of the proposal and tracking those.
And then the last part of the question was if and when North Bank moves forward, that will be brought in line with consistency on this plan, assuming adoption.
Correct. It would, it would have to be a consistent document with this, to my knowledge.
Thank you.
Sure. So yeah, just to sort of turn to the public participation, highlight a few issues and just the process in general, because it is a little different than a typical comprehensive plan amendment, or different than the annual amendment process. And in this case, there's a public plan that was led by the consultant as a new sub-area plan. And these interactions with people at public meetings and throughout the process informed the areas where people agreed on guiding development, to have discussions about best practices in similar cities, and using art, architecture, and other creative mechanisms to engage with streets and public spaces. And then also there were 7 Plan Commission workshops total since the fall of 2019, and also visits to nearby neighborhood councils, and a steering committee was to help share and guide content over a series of meetings. And the meetings and comments helped identify the community's vision for downtown, the priority items in the draft, and then later enabled the team to circle back to check with an additional virtual open house that was inserted to the process schedule to present and receive feedback on the draft. So there were several key themes identified in the draft as part of the public process in section 3 of the plan. And these were improvements to streets and public spaces, parking, especially addressing surface parking and parking design, concerns about homeless conditions, and concerns about public safety, with divergent opinions about how to effectively address those concerns, and access to alternatives to driving downtown, as well as preserving vehicle access on major routes into and out of downtown. And these key themes help form the basis of the plan's vision and goals, which will be presented shortly. Another later addition to the process was the Plan Commission Subcommittee, established early this year, which issued a report discussing issues and highlighting topics. It recommended diagrams for active street edges, and for the downtown core's 100 zone, which is an area adjacent to Riverfront Park along Spokane Falls Boulevard, a new option for performance-based design for exploration if the city makes modification to the code for this zone was recommended. That the process didn't really define this alternative, but proposed it for future consideration. And turning to the third and most recent online survey, we talked about this at Plan Commission workshop in April, but coming back to it, this was concluded in early April, used content from the draft, and helped confirm that certain priority actions are important to the community. Generally, strategies contribute to achieving goals. And then it also we find that some of the most recent feedback from the public participation, areas of concern, the Plan Commission, as I say, received a report from this at the workshop last month, and included the top suggested areas for improvement, which were homeless conditions, crime, parking, and bike and pedestrian facilities. And this is also posted on the city's project website for the outreach summary. So this is an excerpt from that outreach summary, again, on the project webpage. The last few questions, following the questions about priority actions, the question on the left is about strategies in general, and answers the question that most people answer and believe strategies in general do help achieve community goals. And then question 10 on the right, for those who answered, indicates those who answered about changes to better respond to community goals. And about a third of the 741 participants for the survey overall skipped these questions. And of the 505 who answered this question, 289 answered yes, and 216 answered no. So I want to return to this question 11, which is the follow-up question in terms of the areas of improvement. And this is previously presented in your workshop as a different format, a word cloud. This follows the survey question, again, based on the planning process about improving the draft to better respond to community goals, and gives more informative detail here in terms of the distribution of responses than the previous presentation. And here we can see about 2/3 of people either skipped or didn't answer this question, which makes sense because respondents either indicated no to needed changes in the previous question, or skip that question as well. And then again, it shows a distribution of some of the mentioned in responses. So we see the sort of the top 4 categories mentioned: addressing homeless conditions, crime or drug use, parking availability and supply, and in terms of transportation, broken out here as better bike facilities. So looking at different aspects of this data, although it's the top mentioned category, addressing homeless conditions actually occurred in less than a quarter of people who answered yes about the needed changes, or less than 1/10 of the 741 survey participants overall. So looking closer at why does the plan address social and housing issues? On the left, most people in the plan's opening survey in 2019 selected homelessness when asked to select up to 3 challenges facing downtown, with public safety also coming in among the top 3. And then by the time of the third survey this year, less than 1/10 of the 741 participants mentioned it. Throughout the process, the existing conditions report from 2020, which is referred to as an Appendix A to this plan, included a preliminary strategy about managing the concentration of homeless services at the second public workshop to generate feedback. And the feedback received, we continue to work to change our proposed strategies and manage expectations in the draft for the areas where the social services interact with development and plan level guidance. So through that process, what did we hear? We heard that in the existing conditions report from 2020, that there was a highlight of other communities nationwide that have achieved functional zero homelessness. We heard also, obviously, we're continuing to hear a lot of major concern from property owners, residents, and others about this issue, and wanting to, respond appropriately through this process and make sure that we're doing that. So turning to the proposed policy content that address social services and housing in the draft, what can citizens expect the downtown plan to do, and what causes have a clear connection to the downtown plan, and how is it addressing it? Housing has a direct connection, and this includes new approaches to housing development for all income levels. There's a clear connection between affordability and supporting the people who need shelter and supporting work the city is doing to address homelessness. The Plan Commission Subcommittee reviewed these strategy areas and provided some clarification for measuring the number of units, some better definition created to track progress for new units for all income levels. In terms of public safety, or public spaces rather, programming and crime prevention programs are included in the draft with new measures to track activation. And finally, coordination with adopted policy. So making mention of the regional model to address homelessness, and strategic plan, the strategic plan in terms of strengthening community partnerships, but without a new policy. Another way in the text of this plan to direct people is through this strategy, well-organized strategy regarding cultivating leadership and strengthening partnerships to direct people and resources to the appropriate plan. And that document, the strategic plan to prevent and end homelessness, is the primary plan for the city's efforts. Throughout the process, we heard concerns about addressing homeless conditions downtown, as well as separate concerns with public safety. And throughout the process, the city has responded with considerable time and discussion with Downtown Spokane Partnership, city staff, city council members, and others to look closely at possibilities and best approach without going too far into new policy concerned with operations. So this is a really distinct document from other related plans. Again, it's coordinated and it acknowledges those efforts, those other efforts, but separate with different requirements for what this plan should be. And this draft does not duplicate the strategic plan to prevent and end homelessness, but builds on those strategies in an integrated way. So the staff report addresses the operations and context of the comprehensive plan goals for Chapter 10, social health, refraining from including tasks identified in annual or monthly work programs, or those needs that are day-to-day and change more frequently than this document is updated. Kind of remembering that this is a 10 or 15-year plan. The planning team made sure to describe the current state of those operations in this plan in the introduction. So through careful consideration of input, reviewing examples and downtown plans from other cities, and incorporating that content where possible, examining trends, recognizing the downtown plan is not a process to create new policy for police operations and homeless services. The city has made a point with the proposed draft to include references, point to what's in place, the plan preface, introduction, and other areas provide this position. This is not a social services document. The city recommends this draft plan that the team has negotiated sets up appropriate expectations. So with that summary of public participation and those issues, I'll introduce Jeff Arango, the consultant from Framework, to review the vision and goals and other content in the draft. Jeff?
Great. Yeah, thank you, Nate. Good summary. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Jeff Arango. I'm the Director of Planning at Framework, and I was the project manager for the consulting team. Next slide, please, Nate. And so we're just going to provide a little brief overview of the plan, and we'll start with an overview. This is some content that appears in the executive summary. And one of the things that we feel is really important at Framework is being able to communicate what influenced the development of the plan. Why does it say what it does? Why does it recommend what it does? And so the Downtown Spokane plan identifies ways to support the people who live, work, and play in downtown. And we basically crafted this plan based on the three principles that you see below. The first is to focus on areas of agreement. And as with any planning process, you know, there's never universal agreement on exactly what the right strategies are, although everyone that participated clearly has a passion and desire to see downtown continue to succeed in the future. But we've chosen in this plan to really focus on those areas of agreement where there is consensus, where we feel like there are strategies that can move forward with the support of the community. Really to focus on people and activity, which is what really makes downtown a great place to be, opportunities for social interaction and a variety of activities, commerce, arts and culture, events, things like that, really focusing on bringing all of the streets and public spaces and buildings to life in downtown. And then the last one is looking at ways that we can test and evaluate new ideas to see firsthand whether they're sort of meeting our goals for downtown. Not every strategy needs to be a multi-million-dollar capital project. There are some things that we can do in the near term, relatively low cost, that can allow us to test some of these concepts and move forward and start to have some early wins as we move into the implementation phase of the plan. Next slide, please. So just briefly on the timeline, we started our work in the late summer, early fall of 2019. The plan timeline, you know, was extended a bit due to COVID and some of the coordination there. But the plan was broken down into three phases. First was existing conditions. We had some focus groups and some interviews that we held in Spokane early in the process, which was a lot of really great input by people that have a deep connection and understanding of downtown Spokane. We produced a draft or an existing conditions report, which has since been finalized, and we use that as kind of the basis for kind of understanding the current conditions of downtown. We had a public meeting at the Pavilion, which was a lot of fun in the fall of 2019. That was sort of focused on presenting our existing conditions and then some early outreach. We had a tabletop mapping exercise and a vision wall and other opportunities for input that, again, has all been incorporated into the plan content that you see today. In the draft plan stage, we ended up having two public meetings. One was at Wonder Spokane. And he says, well, and the second meeting, sorry, I was getting some feedback. There was an online open house that we held recently, and that was an additional public meeting that was not in the original plan. And then now we're in the final process here at the public hearing with the Planning Commission, and then moving on eventually to the council. Next slide, please. So one of the sections in the plan which kind of stands out because it's got the dark background that you see on the slide is what we're calling the plan framework. That's really kind of the sets the stage for the overall structure of the plan. So that includes our new vision statement, which Nate touched on a little bit, but it talks about downtown Spokane as the cultural and economic heart of the Inland Northwest, oriented on the river and the falls, and a number of other statements about the desired qualities for downtown. It also includes goals and strategies, and I'll go through those on these next slides. Next slide. So the plan is oriented around these 5 goals, and these address issues that were identified in the existing conditions review as well as during the public outreach process. So each of these is supported by more specific strategies, and those strategies are then reflected in the action plan at the end of the report. And we have tried to make this plan very action oriented and something that hopefully can be implemented over the 10-year period. Next slide, please. Opportunity sites were identified in the 2008 plan. These are sort of like catalyst projects or major projects. A number of the opportunity sites were developed as part of the 2008 plan implementation, which is great. There are a few holdovers. The ones identified with an asterisk are new opportunity sites, and the others are existing. So some of the ones that were here previously are the sites down there along Spokane Falls Boulevard, number 3 and 4. Those sites have not redeveloped over the last 10 or so years. And we have some public spaces identified, both to create new public spaces in the case of number 1, and activating and highlighting some of the existing public spaces as well, such as the downtown alley and the Parkade Plaza. So hopefully we can achieve the development of most of these sites over the 10-year period. Next slide, please. So this is what we're calling the priority actions. As I said, each of the goals is supported by specific strategies, and those strategies are reflected in the action plan, which identifies, high-level cost estimates, responsible department or agencies, timeline, and as part of that, we identified, or really the city and DSP identified, priority actions. I believe there are 15 of them that are a little bit elevated in the plan and would be sort of the highest priorities for implementation. The ones that are identified in the kind of pinkish color, those are ones where there's still been some ongoing discussion around those specific actions and whether there needs to be any tweaks to those. And I'll talk about a couple of those on the next few slides. Next slide. And one of those issues is the height restriction in the DTC 100 zone, which is those opportunity sites which are along Spokane Falls Boulevard. It was the subject of extensive study by the Plan Commission previously. And so this plan does recommend some steps towards addressing this issue in terms of completing a market study to understand more specifically whether the height restriction is sort of preventing redevelopment. And so this is, again, one that we've highlighted here again today as something that should be addressed in the plan adoption and the recommendation from the Plan Commission to the City Council. Next slide, please. And then another major topic is strategies to reduce surface parking. You can see the surface parking highlighted in the map on the right-hand side, and you can see there are significant portions of downtown and blocks that are surface parking lots, which make it challenging to meet some of our goals, particularly around connected and walkable. It's hard to create a walkable area if the entire block or a large portion of it is surface parking. How do we fill in those gaps? And to the extent that structured parking is needed to replace surface parking or support redevelopment, we have some strategies around that as well. So this is, again, another, I think, key strategy in the plan is to look at different strategies for reducing surface parking and making the city more connected and walkable. Next slide, please. And then lastly, this is a new section of the plan, which we're calling measures of success. And another thing that we think is really important in developing a plan is having a mechanism to understand if you're actually achieving your goals. Are you actually implementing the plan, or was it just adopted and not really implemented? And so we've developed a number of sort of metrics, both qualitative and quantitative, that could be tracked as sort of indicators for how the community is doing on the implementation of the plan. And we expect that this would be sort of looked at periodically and communicated out to the public. But again, we think this is really important for the plan monitoring and to ensure that we're meeting the fairly lofty goals that we've set out in this plan. So I think that's the last slide. And I just wanted to close by thanking the city and the Downtown Spokane Partnership and the community for the opportunity to work on this plan. It's certainly been a highlight of my career, and really look forward to seeing the plan implemented. And of course, thank you to all of the members of the community that participated in the planning process in various ways. We simply can't develop a plan without that meaningful input. So thank you for those that took the time to participate.
Thank you, Jeff. And Andrew, are you available to give your presentation?
I am, Nate. Can you hear me?
I can.
Great. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair and fellow commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to have a few minutes to discuss the plan. I certainly have enjoyed the past year and a half working with Nate and Jeff, Leslie, and the team at Framework. They've done some excellent work, and look forward to bringing this forward to completion. There are a couple of areas where we're not quite on the same page at the moment. If you could advance to the next slide, Nate. Those are policies around homelessness and policing that Nate was alluding to earlier. That is a primary focus, and I'll spend the majority of my time talking about that. And I'll close with just a recommendation to adjust an adjustment to the recommended policy for the DTC 100 zone. Slide, please. You got to look at a couple of these several slides back. The way I would characterize them, and particularly beginning with the April 2021 survey, the responses listed there, is that it represents quite a sizable set of responses. As you can see, 222 written. This is from a much larger group of individuals who provided commentary but then did not write. Nevertheless, 80 of the comments, so 36% approximately, of all comments received, written comments were received, were in regard to those two areas, the need to continue to or to improve the reflection of homelessness in the plan, as well as the need to improve the discussion of crime in downtown. Again, you have seen the middle chart, which is the data from the opening survey in November of 2019. Again, the first and second categories in terms of level of response were on homelessness and public safety. And then the first link in the chain regarding outreach to the public came in the form of a couple of focus groups that were conducted in September of 2019. Approximately 24 stakeholders were interviewed in two groups of around 12. The makeup of that was composed of business leaders and representatives of associations, as well as stakeholders from social service providers. And they identified homelessness and public safety as the biggest challenges facing downtown. So I would say it was the feedback has been consistent. As we advanced through the process, that being the Downtown Spokane Partnership, began with suggesting and recommending quite a list of various policies to address those concerns. And the feedback generally was that quite a lot of our recommended policies were in, as Nate alluded to, in the operational area, that they were fairly detailed and therefore challenging for our agencies to implement. So our response to that initially was to conduct a survey of plans from other downtown, for other downtowns, particularly those in the Western United States. If you could advance the slide, Nate. And after some research, we located downtown plans from those four cities. I believe we certainly could have found quite a few other downtown plans that have fairly detailed discussions of policy on homelessness and crime in their respective downtowns. But these four were illustrative, and I'll begin just by noting, for instance, that in Salt Lake City, they recommend considering business impacts on social service provider siting decisions. That is a fairly nuanced, detailed policy. Additionally, Boise recommended the implementation of their mayor's 10-year plan to end homelessness and the regulation of panhandling. In Olympia, it is recommended that a full-time downtown walking foot patrol be established by their police department, and that a nightlife safety plan be coordinated between law enforcement and their downtown establishments. And lastly, that Calgary recommended in the 5-year update to their 10-year plan in approximately 2014, that police officers be added to the transit safety unit. The next notable aspect I think that's worth noting is the content in the existing conditions report. No doubt that commissioners have taken a look at that part of the report. It's quite extensive. It is a 2-page text-heavy document which goes into quite extensive detail about all the trends and conditions that have emerged in the years leading up to the start of the downtown plan update process. It's very authoritative and informative, and certainly provides a great deal of context on the on these issues. But the question that comes to mind as a result of that is, why is it that with all of the effort that is made to address these issues in the existing conditions report, that so little of it would be brought forward into the actual policy section of the plan? As Nate noted, there are specific statements on CPTED, but otherwise the policies recommended on crime and homelessness are peripheral in the policy section of the plan. As mentioned, we did start off with quite a list of proposed policies, and because of the response that they were too narrow, or for a number of different reasons would be problematic for inclusion in the policy section, we have whittled that down, and that brings us to where we're at today, which are essentially 2 recommended policies. If you could advance to the next slide, Nate. That we recommend for editing into the plan, of course, with the Plan Commission's concurrence and approval. That first policy is the continued presence of a fully staffed centralized downtown precinct, which engages in the implementation of community-oriented policing. The second policy is to monitor housing and shelter for low-income residents and residents experiencing homelessness. Additionally, that social service providers would be encouraged to provide housing and social services throughout the entire city. So those at this time are our recommended policy changes, and we believe that they're important to include because they don't direct limited resources away from existing programs. They are grounded in the comprehensive plan, as you can see in the direct references there. They are our stated priorities of our elected officials, our mayor and our city council. And we believe that they're quite modest while still providing value to the business community, and we think the wider community as well. And ultimately, I think most importantly, we believe that it would strengthen the plan and enhance its credibility by addressing what we believe to be a significant and ongoing demand for a more direct acknowledgement of these 2 issues. So I'll close my comments on crime and social services, and then finish off with a recommended change to the DTC 100 policy. Nate, if you could please advance. Thank you. We believe
Andrew?
that, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but just for clarification, the commission was sent, I believe, that exact language today. Is that correct? Is that in agreement with the council member
yes.
Kinnears? Okay, it would look word for word
yes,
to me, but just to clarify.
It is, yes, it is an exact duplication.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So the policy for DTC 100 is I would characterize it just as a strengthening of the acknowledgement that is made currently in the draft plan, in which we suggest acknowledging the unanimously passed 2018 policy recommendation that came from the Plan Commission, was not subsequently taken up by council. And it would have permitted greater height limits in exchange for those listed limitations on the part of the developer, and there were a couple of others that are not on the list. We simply suggest that language be strengthened and clarified. And lastly, that certainly the performance-based design concept is very interesting. We appreciate the distinct possibility that it might be much more flexible than the more prescriptive approach that was approved or actually recommended in 2018. But it is, as you know, there is not detail, and we would like to see some additional detail. Whether that's provided in an outline separate to the document or directly in the document, I think directly in the document would be an improvement, but at least a statement describing how it would actually work in the DTC 100 surface lot parcels would help us to better understand and ultimately take a position on its favorability. And with that, I conclude my remarks. I am again once again very appreciative of the time you've provided, and so thank you very much.
Yeah, and I would just conclude, thank you, Andrew, with the written comments. Those have been sent to the Plan Commission, and they have mixed support for the plan. So they're mostly positive or neutral comments. Common topics, again, supporting bike, pedestrian facility improvements. We have comments about the facilities in the North Bank, especially some recent comments about the Bosch lot, which is located just across the Post Street Bridge from Riverfront Park, and more parking availability, less parking costs, and we have some new comments related to safety, and then of course more to address homeless conditions. And I echo my colleagues, just say thanks for this opportunity to share with you information on developing policy for these important issues for downtown, for housing affordability, public safety, and I'll conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you all. So I have a couple of questions first, and very quick, but I want to open up to the commission. Just on the proposed amendments, if the commission were to consider those, I assume they would get introduced after a major motion as amendments. One thing I'm struggling with is finding them, just simply locating them within the actual downtown plan without seeing a strikeout of those sections. Is that a complete strikeout of whatever sections those are? I don't know how easy that'd be to pull up now or later, but yeah.
Yeah, I believe those would just be new additions, not replacing any existing content.
Okay, so they fall at the end of each one of those. PS 1.3 is after the end, which is PS 1.2 right now.
Correct.
Okay, thanks. That's helpful. That's what I was asking, if there's strikeouts. I have a quick question, and then I'll open it up to the commission. So thank you all. And something I've always struggled with is understanding historically, why our city has a separate downtown plan that gets adopted as an amendment. I'm curious from anyone, but maybe Jeff, you're the best position to answer this. And do other cities, especially in Washington, have a separate downtown plan that gets amended formally into the comprehensive plan?
Yes.
Or anyone can answer, but yes, Jeff.
Sure, I'd be happy to answer. I would say yes, it is quite common, and not just downtown plans, but any sort of sub-area plan is connected to the comprehensive plan. So yeah, the quick answer is yes, it's very common.
Okay, so then the follow-up question is, if there's a hypothetical Venn diagram of a typical downtown plan, maybe that's representative of a city not in Washington under the Growth Management Act. Andy, you gave other examples of Salt Lake and so forth. Are there some overlaps there that would typically be in a downtown plan, but are not responding to an RCW Growth Management Act? And maybe another way to ask that is, if we weren't to do it as a large downtown plan that includes lots of things, of other policies, if it was just what responds to the GMA, would it look different?
I'm not sure. That's sort of difficult to answer. I do think that cities have some flexibility in how they separate what's in a separate plan versus what's in a comprehensive plan. So I don't know if there's necessarily just one way to do that. So I think it's sort of up to the community and plan commission to decide what's best in this case.
Are there any cities that only do it within their required elements and don't do a separate downtown plan?
Yes, you could have a downtown element as sort of like a first step towards the downtown plan.
Jeff, can I ask you to speak up? We can't hear you.
Yeah, sure. Sorry about that. Is that any better?
No.
Wow. How about that? Is that better?
Substantially. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. I wish I had known that earlier. I would have switched it. Yes, oftentimes cities will have a downtown element, which typically is not nearly as robust as what would be in a downtown plan. It's typically more policy oriented, like the comprehensive plan elements, and that is sort of maybe a first step towards developing an actual downtown plan that's standalone. So, and I would say for a city like Spokane that is so invested in its downtown, certainly having a standalone plan makes sense. In this case, it tends to be smaller communities, small towns, smaller cities that utilize this sort of element option.
Yeah, thank you. Other commissioners, please.
I'm wondering, and I forget, I've read the plan, but is there any references to public restrooms? Or I know that there were some comments that were submitted with regards to public restrooms. Is there any reference to that within the plan?
I think that there is no, I'm not sure there is with regard to restrooms specifically. There's some references to the clean team and the work that they do through the Downtown Spokane Partnership. And there is, of course, the expectation of a clean and safe downtown over the long term.
Okay, thanks.
Any other immediate questions from the commission before we go into public hearing?
I would like just to make a statement, I guess. I don't really have a question. I think that Andrew's absolutely correct. We have to address the homeless issue and the perceived crime issue in downtown. I have friends who won't set foot in downtown because of that. And if we don't include this in the basic proposal, we might as well not have any proposal at all, quite frankly.
Okay, thank you, Michael. And it's probably something we can expand upon in deliberation, right? Any other questions for the team here? Okay, hearing none, let's now, under the same rules we read before, let's move into public testimony. Nathan, you did a good job of summarizing a lot of the written testimony. Thank you for that. Again, one thing I'll reiterate to the public, because we have and have reviewed all of the written testimony, if you still would like to speak, please don't be redundant in all the information that's already captured in the email, but you're obviously welcome to speak. Let's start with our list of people that have signed up, and then we'll give an opportunity for anyone else who might have joined us to jump in after. So Jackie, I don't have the list right in front of me. I'll look it up here.
We had a Mark Howard as earlier sign up.
Actually, he requested a later
Oh, a little bit later. So
Yes.
Thomas Basler.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go. Please identify yourself and go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thomas Bassler. I'm talking just as an individual taxpayer. These are my thoughts and do not represent any businesses I'm associated with. Okay? I completely agree with Andrew and Nathan about the homeless being the biggest problem. And unless the homeless issues are resolved, the downtown will have difficulty attracting business, art, and culture. The draft plan does not address this major issue. I know this has been said, but Andrew said this is a peripheral issue where it's addressed peripherally. I've read this plan cover to cover twice. There's nothing in it about homeless at all, about how to address it. No specific things. They say, oh, just look at the 5-year plan. The 5-year plan is 49 pages. It has, again, nothing specific in there. If you actually read that plan, it doesn't say anything. It describes existing programs, how great they are, and what these programs are doing, but nothing new. There's no steps. These are what we're going to do. The draft plan gives the DSP additional responsibilities. The DSP is failing the current DSP responsibility of safety. The draft plan should not be approved until the DSP successfully addresses the safety and homeless issue. Giving the DSP additional responsibility while the DSP is failing is wrong and will take needed time, attention, and energy away from the primary responsibility of safety. Although the entire plan draft should be postponed until the current crisis is resolved, here are some specific dangers of this plan. Page 74 states that property owners can partner with the DSP. This invites corruption and allows the DSP to pick winners and losers. Page 75 states the City of Spokane and DSP should identify a public or quasi-public partner to work with private developers. Again, this invites corruption and allows the DSP to pick winners and losers. Page 75. Build site-based partnerships with affordable housing developers and engage these organizations in economic analysis of how an affordable housing program can be implemented in Spokane's real estate and development market. That's critical. That's very important, but it flies in the face of this Sustained Action Subcommittee's proposal to update Spokane's Sustainability Action Plan. I just learned about this today. If this action plan is implemented, it's going to drive up housing building costs through the roof. I mean, if the city really wants to do something about affordable housing, reduce the regulations, get rid of this Sustained Action Subcommittee, and simplify things so we can actually build. We have to get rid of these regulations. The city and the DSP should coordinate and expand on DSP's existing program for enlivening downtown's public space and additional events and locations. The DSP should use all its resources to resolve the safety and crime and vagrant problems. Existing tenants are leaving downtown. If the flight is not stopped, the downtown is going to die. There's other examples, but I think I've spoken enough, and it's all repetitive. We got to get the DSP to limit what it's doing, not expand it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bassam. Louis, I found my list. Okay, I see Mark Howard is available, so let's go back to Mr. Howard, please.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm just calling in. Can you hear me all right?
We can. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thanks. Hey, this is Mark Howard. I'm just speaking as a private individual citizen. And I've been involved in the workshops and, of course, read the plan and virtually attended the last meeting. And so I know what I've got to say will take less than 2 minutes, so I promise to keep to that. So I've read several inputs about the emphasis on bike-friendly and bus route options. And I really do encourage this because the use of options, that's important for any well-planned city. However, I really would implore anyone that's involved in the planning for the future of our city to consider that the vast majority of our people who make the downtown vibrant is by driving their private vehicles to enjoying the downtown with their families. And we're also the people who contribute to the tax base and helps our city to grow and prosper. So I'm a I'm a family man, but my children are all grown now, out in the world doing great things. But I was a father of a middle-income family with 3 very active children in the Spokane Valley for almost 30 years. And to be very honest, not once did I consider taking a public transportation option to take my family of 5 to any of the events or services in the downtown core. We got in a car, hopped on the highway, drove downtown, and attended every event you can imagine, including Hoop Fest, Bloomsday, events at the arena, restaurants, music venues, and Christmas events, just to scratch the surface. So we knew we needed to find a place to park and understood that was just part of the process of going to something downtown. So I'm asking to please have a significant focus on the parking development for families like mine. We're in the majority and not the minority, and should be significantly considered for the downtown plan. Whether we like it or not, I've lived here since the 80s, and I know that the culture of Spokane is a get in your car and go community. We can get anywhere we want in 20 minutes or less. So I just hope that that is a considerable, or a considered emphasis in the plan for parking for families like mine for the future here in Spokane. And that's all I have to comment on. I really appreciate everyone's time. And again, the work that has been done on this plan is amazing. Going to the workshops and just being included and feeling included by all of the great messaging that's been put out there to get people from every possible walk of life in our city to participate. It's been great. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Next, we have Ms. Jessica Engelman, please. Are you here? Does anyone see Ms. Engelman on the? If you're listening and dialing in, is there a *3 need here?
I saw her earlier, but I don't see her now.
I was about to say the same thing.
Okay, we'll come back if we have an opportunity here. Ms. Carol Ellis, please.
Hi. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that in 2018 with the DTC 100 plan that we were looking at, for the 2 surface parking lots, we were looking at green spaces and public spaces. And I didn't see that on the list that was proposed earlier this evening. So I'd like to open up discussion of including, if we're going to change building heights, requirements for public space and green space, because as it interfaces with Riverfront Park, I believe that it demands to call for green space and public space on that side. And second, I wanted to ask Nathan if there anywhere in the plan has been included what the RCO has stated about the Bosch lot. Nathan's here.
I'd have to refresh on what they have stated. I can find that and try to answer your question momentarily.
Okay. Anything else, Ms. Ellis?
Well, it's that the RCO includes the Bosch lot in the Riverfront Park section, but the current proposed new plan does not show that on the map that the Bosch lot, even though it's opportunity site, it's not listed in the Riverfront Park section. And on the North Bank section, it is still in the business district, but not specified as being in Riverfront Park. I just want it to be quite clear that the RCO declares it to be part of Riverfront Park, and I want to see it reflected in the business district map and on the Riverfront Park section and on the North Bank section. So there you go. Did you find anything, Nathan, on the RCO? I can resend it if the committee needs it resend. I'm happy to resend their statement about the Bosch lot.
Yeah, it's so I have your comment, and the Plan Commission has your comment. This was sent on May 4th, correct?
Right, and so I'm just going to send the RCO comment because I would like to see it included in a more thorough, concrete way in the plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ellis.
Thank you.
And I can confirm that Commission has seen that. We did receive that email, so thank you. Okay, That's the end of the list of pre-signed up, but we're going to open it now to anyone else that would like to address the commission. So I'm not monitoring chat, but either put your name in there or just simply speak up and we'll try to do our best here to queue it up.
Hey, Todd.
I saw your name. I was hoping you would say something.
This is Chris Batten. Hey, nice to see some of you. I haven't seen you in a while, a full pandemic later.
Hey, Chris.
How we doing, guys?
Good,
Michael,
good.
I really appreciated your comments in particular. I personally believe that any downtown plan that does not fully recognize and come up with some mechanisms for dealing with the homelessness issue in downtown is lacking at best. I'll just leave it at that. I know this has been a process, and a lot of input from various different people over the course of time, and I appreciate everybody that has been involved. At this late date, I would just simply say I strongly support the DSP's additions, and to codify the idea of having a downtown precinct, I think is critical in the downtown plan. I think we've seen significant improvement, even during COVID, quite frankly, with police presence downtown. And I know as a property owner and a business owner, I certainly appreciate that. And I would also support the addition of WO 1.5 as well. So that's my opinion, and I appreciate everybody's input and hard work on this. Thank you all.
Yes, thank you, Chris. Nice to hear from you. Anyone else online like to be recognized?
Hi, this is Sue Horton, and I'm
Go
the
ahead, Ms. Horton.
president and CEO of Wheatland Bank, and we're also property owners and business owners in downtown Spokane. And I too support all the DSP's positions. And I know one of the speakers tonight said, the DSP hasn't done their job. We need to make sure these things are in the plan. I think some of you know I've been a broken record on this issue of making sure we address the homelessness and issues with criminality and drug use, as has every member of the DSP that I've heard give testimony. So I'm really pleased tonight to hear the testimony from others in the community that are supporting this as well. I agree with all of your comments, and it's just critical that we protect, our downtown for all citizens, so that the families can come down, so that the businesses will continue to drive the economy, so we can have a vibrant arts district and entertainment for all. So I just wanted to make that comment that I too support all of the positions that Andrew presented this evening. Thank you. And I appreciate very much being included in this process. I think we've had excellent leadership with our consultants and are working closely with our city in collaboration. So thank you for including me. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else?
Mr. Chair.
Hey, Mr. Hume, please.
Hey there. I participated from a distance, workshops, etc., and talking to Nate, and I represent the property owners of the Ruby River Hotel, right there on the river on the north bank, and their request has been to be included in the parking waiver that the downtown district has. As you may or may not know, they own property across what's known as Northeast River Drive, where the the ARC building is located, and then the rest of it was their parking lot. They want to reuse that property in a more public service way, but they don't want to get snagged with the requirement for a particular parking ratio. And staff has discussed with me about that option there is some means of reduction. But before you go there and conclude that our request doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense to my client to look across the street at the hotels on the west side of Division who enjoy that opportunity. Obviously, that doesn't mean we would eliminate parking. But the problem that I've heard that is the pushback is from neighboring properties when there's a proposal for no parking, because it pushes the users of that property into their property for parking purposes. And therefore there's resistance. I don't think you would have that here. And I would respectfully request that the Planning Commission consider the inclusion of their properties into the ability to have zero parking. Obviously, they'll work and provide parking, but they simply don't want to be controlled by an equation of how much parking by square footage, et cetera. So hopefully you can include that and bring equity to what all the rest of the hotels along the North Riverbank have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Human. I recall your previous comments on this. Can you, if I understand it correctly, so this is included in the downtown zone boundary that we're considering tonight, but you're saying in the parking overlay, it's not included, which, correct me if I'm wrong, would be a map change, correct?
And we'll let Nate answer that one.
Yeah, I think it could be probably done as a text change, looking at past examples. But you know, they're recognizing that it's a work program item, so could be relatively, you know, farther out. It isn't really anticipated by this this document. Although I think tried to point out the ways that this document would, you know, encourage that kind of a change if it ever did happen in the future.
Nathan, did I restate the problem correctly? That it is an overlay request?
It's an overlay, and I believe that in the past when we've published no parking overlays or expansions, that they can be done by text amendment code. So it's just a development regulation change.
And if I could add to that, the text amendment then under current policies and procedures of the city means that we'd be looking at an annual amendment cycle rather than capturing it now and including it. I guess the essence of the question to staff and the Planning Commission is, do you have the ability to include this if you wanted to in this particular action?
Nathan, go ahead, dude.
I think that this is part of the North Bank discussion, and it has been in the past. Right now, to whether to include it in the no parking required overlay, which would have its own process around that and notification to property owners and surrounding property owners. Eliminating the parking requirements has been controversial in the downtown edge, such as the discussion that we had in the South U district, where there was some pushback from some property owners of just pure elimination of parking requirement. We do have built into the code today, if a property owner can come in and make a case and demonstrate why they might need less parking and can justify that and not have offsite impacts. We have had many of those projects in the downtown periphery just in the past year have some level of granting of reduced or elimination of parking requirements. So, but I think that would be tied to the North Bank discussion that'll be coming after the downtown plan adoption.
Okay, I have no other comments.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hume.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else, please?
This is Roy Kogan. and I'm speaking with my capacity of chair of the DSP board. And the board fully endorses Andrew's comments. And I think to have a plan that doesn't address homelessness, when we know it's a priority of the elected officials at the city of Spokane, to me seems inappropriate. And it, in our view, is it clearly should be included. It's more than a social issue. It's an economic issue. If we can address this issue properly, we're going to further the tax base in Spokane. It's important to Spokane's long-term survival. So,
Roy, can you speak up, please?
Sure. I'm sorry. Is that better?
Yes, substantially. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, not addressing this in the plan, to me, is very inappropriate. We know the senior elected officials in Spokane are very concerned about homelessness. We're spending lots and lots of dollars on it. And it really is as much as a social issue, an economic issue. To revitalize downtown Spokane, to get businesses back to Spokane, to keep restaurants open. And clearly, it should be something that we formally have a structure to consider. Be happy to work with anybody to help develop that at any time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Craig. Anyone else? Okay. Hearing none. Okay, with that then, we are going to close the public testimony for the commission. And then that gives us a chance to entertain a motion and then move into deliberation. So can we please hear a motion?
I move that Plan Commission recommend to City Council to adopt the Downtown Spokane Plan as written and presented.
Don't we first have to address the proposed additions to it?
I think we can do that as amendments to the main motion, Michael, if that's. So if we hear a second for this main motion, then we can start to entertain amendments.
I second it.
Yep. Okay, Carol, thank you. So moved by Greg and second by Carol. Now we can move into deliberation or potential proposed motions for amendments.
I will propose to amend the Downtown Spokane Plan to include the downtown or the DSP additions of PS 1.3 action and W 1.5 or WO 1.5 action as presented by Andrew Rolls. How do you say your name, Andrew?
Common question. It's Rolls.
Rolls.
Lou Rolls. Think Lou Rolls if that rings a bell for you.
I second it.
Okay, it's been moved and second on the amendment. So before we start discussing the amendment, so the commission does have these proposed amendments via public record email. I didn't see it in the packet, of course. Do we need it up on the screen if possible?
We got it this afternoon from Jackie.
Yes, the commission has it. I just want to make sure everyone is.
Can we put it on the screen again, please?
Yes, can we please put it on the screen? I'm looking for them right now.
Hey, Nate, do you have them handy? Nate, there you go. No, Nate, do you have the two policies exactly?
Yep, here they are.
We're talking about the amendment.
They're on now.
I think these
There
are
we go.
the policies.
Perfect.
Now, for me, the reason I'm going to support this, and I think it's, while I do have some issue with throwing some operational items into the plan, I also recognize that there are lots of concerns with regards to crime and homelessness in the downtown area. So I believe that these two action items being added to the plan are a good accommodation to address the needs of the Downtown Spokane Partnership with regards to those items. So that's why I think it's good to include these.
I agree. I think without these included, we simply have a very hollow plan.
I agree. It's important for the downtown businesses as well as people who shop and play downtown feel safe. And that also the homeless, or the homelessness, receive help as well. Or the homeless receive help as well. Yes, thank you.
And another thing I'd like to acknowledge is that this is also a bit of a negotiation between Councilmember Kinnear and I think the planning staff to a degree, and also the Downtown Spokane Partnership. So this is not something just being thrown at us by the Downtown Spokane Partnership for inclusion. This is a already negotiated language.
I'm not a big fan of the font, but that's all right.
This is Todd. So yeah, I'm not opposed to this at all. I think I have always struggled with where in the city in strategic plans do these things exist, and I honestly haven't heard anyone opposing the context of these amendments. I've only heard discussion and debate about whether or not it should be part of the comprehensive plan and sit alongside, some other strategic document. I think that was the nature of my question earlier today, is to try to understand is the line already somewhat fuzzy? Is it viewed as a very hard line, maybe from a strict planning and staff sense? Is that consideration? Well, first of all, is that a correct assessment? But then is that addressed in the staff report that I didn't pick up?
We haven't routed this around this amendment internally yet, as far as if those departments that are impacted operationally feel like this is too restricting. The downtown plan is meant to be a longer term infrastructure land use vision, and not meant to kind of restrict operational decisions that are made on a yearly or bi-yearly basis. And so we want to make sure that they don't feel like that this is too restricting. At first read, I'm not seeing it as that, but we will, after the Plan Commission recommendation, if it is 4, we will route that around internally before it gets to council.
Okay, no, I think that makes me personally feel very comfortable. Because my question is that I don't know if I fully understand is what jurisdiction, but what level of consistency do operational plans have to, meet some of these elements in the comprehensive plan? They don't come to review to us, and to my understanding, right?
At some level they do. If you think of like the 6-year transportation program that was just before, those are projects that are intended to move forward within a 6-year or less window. So you do see some level of projects moving towards implementation and operation. But you do see that in the citywide 6-year program, but it's a capital program. It's not meant to be, you're not dictating how many vehicles are out, fixing sewer lines on a daily basis. That is down to the day-to-day operations. And this plan is not meant to dictate that level of operations. It's meant to be higher level, aspirational, giving general direction. And then it's up to the mayor and the administration to figure out how to best implement that policy framework.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'm supportive, because I think, especially with some of the recent legislation at the state level, I think there's going to be a lot of sorting out over the next couple of years, and it'll help us build into the comprehensive plan. So I'm willing to give support to this.
You know, and I'm comfortable with it now too, Louis. After you told us that you will be routing this around, and they'll have a chance to look at it, and before it goes to city council, and then the city council can, you know, if they find it necessary to make changes, they can. So I would be comfortable with that too. Thanks.
Helpful. Okay, so the action at hand here is still on this amendment. Any other commission comments? Okay, so let's try a verbal vote on just the amendment now of the including the policies in front of us here. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Abstentions? Okay, I heard unanimous. The amendment's adopted. Okay, back to the main motion now. Are there any other proposed amendments or simply deliberation?
Don't we need to address the DT 100 issue?
I think we can discuss it in deliberation or propose amendments. Absolutely.
I propose that we adopt or we amend the proposal to include the DT 100 section
Can we,
as presented.
I think Nathan's ahead of me already. Are you going to pull up the?
Yep.
Okay. In the same deck, I seem to remember the existing contents already is in there also, right? Is that too much to ask to go back and forth? Okay, so this is LWP 3.4 as is, right?
Yes. We still need a second.
Do you want me to pull up text?
Anyone want a second? Otherwise I will. All right, I'm comfortable seconding. Thank you, Michael. Okay, now so now we're reviewing this amendment. Yeah, I guess not everyone was involved in this process on this commission. But in short, I'll summarize my thoughts on this. That we ended up with a prescriptive proposal to council, but based off, you know, a significant level of performance-based design. But again, it was a prescriptive solution. And then if we can go to the proposed amendment, please, the amendment slide. And again, this action would not be a map proposal at this point. It's still going to have to go through the process, but it would be in support of recommendation of going into that, reopening that process. Okay, so what is different about the 4 bullet points on top than what's currently proposed? Or is that irrelevant what's proposed now because it was never adopted?
Can I ask a question? Could you give me a little bit of history about what happened with this and why it's not been adopted?
Who's best qualified?
Yeah, there was an extensive process back in probably even going before 2018, probably 2017, 2018.
It was 2016 and 2017.
Yeah.
I was I was the plan commission representative for it. And Joanne, we went through we went out and did field tests. We did shadowing tests. It just never got far enough along in the process to be adopted as part of the overall plan. It was put on hold, specifically waiting for the new downtown plan to come out.
And Joanne, it was a formal plan commission subcommittee with extensive stakeholder engagement.
So was there political opposition to this? Is that one of the reasons it was put on hold?
No, Joanne, it was just put on hold because we knew we were coming up within a year or two of a new downtown plan. And so we just put it on hold until we could address the downtown plan and make this part of it.
I think there was some reluctance from council to take up the subject at the time and to implement. And rather than, I got to be careful here, rather than say the council saying at the time with the makeup, which is always changing, that they didn't like the plan commission recommendation, they kind of punted to this process to give some further guidance. And based on my knowledge of what's going on, I think that they would be open to another process to examine either performance or other standards for the site. I think shadowing is still a big consideration of Riverfront Park from tall towers. So this goes way back to our previous 80s code, quite honestly, where we had some decision criteria, and a project could come in and propose to do kind of more performance-based things. And the hearing examiner had the ability to see if they were still meeting the intent of what the decision criteria was. And at that point in time, honestly, shadowing of parks was a consideration. So this goes back decades, believe it or not. It's been a tough subject for our community. Shadowing of parks from tall buildings, really tall buildings.
So do you see this as kind of more of a separate process than this? I mean, I know you're saying that this was, put off until now, but has there been a look at this as part of this downtown plan or not? I mean, it's been a totally separate thing?
Yeah, Nate can show some of the additional discussion, some of the graphics that were created that were follow on during this process. This process talked about it quite a bit, but I'm not sure it has a different recommendation than what the Plan Commission had previously, besides talk about maybe performance type standards. I think it'll require a follow-on process to make council comfortable with it. But I'm speculating there, sorry.
And Joanna, as I've dug into this, I have heard feedback, the unlimited height made on the residential, was a red flag for support. And then I'll take ownership that I heavily beat the drum on performance-based design, because in my professional opinion and experience, a site like this is going to be performance-based design. Any skilled architecture and engineering team coming in here would do performance-based design on this important of a site anyway. So I'm a heavy advocate for that secondary piece, but not opposed to if someone can establish a prescriptive baseline then to measure against, because right now I think we're missing a prescriptive baseline to measure against.
So rather than adopting this, could we make some other sort of recommendation that, adopting the plan with the understanding that a follow-up study will be done on this, or what? Is there some other way to do it other than just blanket, putting this on as an amendment?
Yeah, Nate, can you go back to what's in the draft plan, please, so that everybody can review that? And maybe highlight the prime text if you're able to. I think it describes, the current plan describes what was done previously, and then it has a recommendation to try to at least, go back to the issue and study it further or bring forward something else. I think it's in there. Yeah.
Okay.
And again, I'd be very supportive if there's a small window here before this gets to council, that it's on the condition that language is established to support establishing a prescriptive baseline and a performance-based approach, and that would just be the trigger to get into the process. And then I've also I'll share that in the subcommittee for downtown plan, my personal recommendation was let's strike this image, and no offense to the support to produce that image or to the designers, it's just is not really capturing or advancing the cause here in terms of let's evaluate this site as a very important public asset, an amenity for
I
property.
don't really
owners.
like the amount of cloud cover that's in the image myself, so.
Again, it was the massing study taken with and put, and again, no disrespect to the designers, it's the task they were given, so.
Well, it looks like that language covers this then. Is that correct, Louis? I mean, and Nate, I mean, it looks like it's written in there.
Why don't you all take a second? I'm not going to interpret that for you. So I'd like you to read this and see if you think it's covered or if some more analysis should be included or not.
So as someone that was on the DTC 100 subcommittee, and also that was my first formal vote for Planning Commission, I think the language as written in 3.4 encapsulates what we were saying, without going into over detail. And I think that we could easily go back to the findings of fact that Planning Commission passed back then and get that detail, because I think we'd be overly specific within this plan to pull out some of those details without maybe capturing some of the other details that were there as well. So
I would agree with that. And that I think that last sentence kind of says it. So the city should explore performance-based design solutions that enhance the public realm. So I would agree with you, Greg.
So that said, I'm not going to support the amendment
because it's redundant.
I think we're already stating what we need here, and you can easily go back to all those materials that we had to get. There's a lot of detail there, and a lot of thinking behind the process that I don't think we'd capture by just adding some of those words.
Okay. So as written, your belief is that action proposes a reconsideration already.
Yeah, that we retain the language as is.
Can we look at the proposed language again, please?
Well, I think Greg is referring to the language in front of you here.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to look at right here. Thank you.
But I'm hearing the amendment is not necessary because it's already captured.
Already captured, yeah.
But is it? I mean, I'm curious because it says here the Plan Commission unanimously passed a policy recommendation to raise these height limits. So where's that addressed?
Thank you, Ms. Horton. I mean, we are in deliberation, but thank you for the comment. If there is,
I apologize.
No, it's okay. I appreciate the feedback.
I didn't understand the process.
No worries, no worries.
Yeah.
The language does say in the existing action, or in 3.4, it says that the Plan Commission unanimously recommended City Council increase building heights. What it doesn't say is it doesn't give the specific details about building separation or anything like that, which is in the findings of fact and the report that we put together. But that information, I think, is to include those 4 items without including a bunch of other additional information would be, I don't want to call it disingenuous, but it wouldn't fully encapsulate our findings.
So those findings are available.
I agree. I think once we open this up, it would be captured. I agree with Greg. Michael, what say you as the making the motion? Is there, you want to rescind or you want to take it to vote?
Well, I would like to have simply recommend the endorsement of the Plan Commission unanimously passed in 2018 recommendation to raise the heights while also without the also requiring. I guess I would just like to have something addressed in this downtown plan that we realize we need to address the heights of the properties along, the ones particularly along Spokane Falls Boulevard.
And that's already,
It already says that.
Yeah, and when you open up the findings of fact, they would already be there, is my,
Okay, I'll withdraw my motion then.
okay, thank you. I guess we could have asked if anybody didn't support that, but. Okay. Okay, I hope that is satisfactory. I think it is, but I hope to all stakeholders that makes sense and will be addressed. Okay. Anything else? Big comments?
One final comment is the format of the document part of the recommendation? Because I compare it to the housing action plan, and the formatting of the housing action plan is so much cleaner than this one. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. So I don't know if that can be adjusted as before it hits council.
Well, and that's a big ask, and I've made comments, but I also want to say, thank you to the consultant and for a well-prepared document. I think to me, it goes back to my question of, is there a time when certain elements are pulled out into the main comprehensive plan or reformatted under part of, a periodic review or something, because this serves multiple purposes beyond GMA required elements, right? I've always struggled with this as a designer, because we have, U District has 26 different master plans, all with different standards and presentation and intents, right? And somehow we got to pull those together into a sub area plan of the U District, right? And even that has its own
The city hasn't set a standard for the look and feel of various planning documents, and maybe that's something that we need to tighten up going forward. Because we did a pretty major reformatting look of the 2017 comp plan update also compared to what it looked like before. We have, with our consultant contract through DSP to the consultant, there was the opportunity to make adjustments to the look and feel of the document through that process based on resources already expended and the decisions that have been made. This has been the format desired, and I think supported by the DSP also, the look and feel of kind of this neon look. And I think there was a time for making adjustments to that, not so much by the commission, but by both city recommendations to the DSP and the consultant, probably 2 years ago now.
And I'll just say it's a minor thing. It's really the content that matters. So I support the content.
Well, we do have a new neon sign that's been reinstalled on the far edge of downtown. I'm drawing a blank on the exact name, but it's pretty spectacular if you haven't been by there. Minwan, thank you. Yes, it's spectacular. So go by and see that. And I think that this plan is in support of that sign at this point.
Okay. Okay, last chance. Any other comments? I'll just say thank you. Thank you, everyone involved, stakeholders. This clearly was a heavy lift and heavy stakeholder engagement. I learned a lot because we haven't been through a downtown plan since 2008. So go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, well, I just want to say that, I think we've spent 4 years on this, if not more. I mean, with a lot of false starts, and I do really appreciate DSP's involvement in the process, and I think it's good that we have that partnership with DSP to bring this forward and to hear the concerns, not only them, but the city as a whole, and all the outreach that was done during this process. So I've enjoyed the participation on so many of these committees, and I'm ready to see this one done.
Yeah, and I think it raises
I
a
will
point.
chime in too. I really appreciate the extensive Plan Commission involvement, DSP partnership, all the public involvement. Going through COVID and trying to finish up this process during COVID has been, you know, for me, quite the different experience. I'm very happy with the tools that the consultant has used along with staff and DSP. I mean, I hope we don't have to go through a pandemic again for another 100 years. And I don't plan on being around for the next downtown plan update 100 years from now. But I'm really impressed that we had the design review board have a joint meeting with the Plan Commission subcommittee on deep diving into this subject too. This has been an extraordinary effort with the Plan Commission, so I appreciate this. Thank you.
Yeah, that's well said. And I think what I'm excited about is it sets us up well as we start to get into periodic update in a few years. I think this is a critical first step, and we also know where the gaps are on certain elements. So, okay, everyone ready? Please take roll.
Okay, Michael Baker,
Aye.
Todd Byrather,
Aye.
Greg Francis,
Aye.
Thomas Sanderson,
Aye.
Carol Shook,
Aye.
Clifford Winger, can you hear
Hey,
me?
Mr. Winger, I unmuted you. Try again. I think that was him. I'm not sure that was an aye or an nay, but Mr. Winger, one more time.
You could write your vote in the Q&A section if you would like. Do it that way. And while we're waiting, Joanne Wright,
Aye.
You still there, Jackie?
yep. Well, the motion will carry regardless.
Mr. Winger in the Q&A box said abstain.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. Okay, so yes, the motion carries.
I think you're on mute, Mr. President.
Oh, that's too bad. That was very thoughtful, what I just said. Thank you, everyone, and appreciate the time. Good luck on to council. So
See you everybody next Wednesday.
we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.